Hello, welcome to Informative Conversations Podcast. My guest today is Blair Parke. Blair is an author, writer, and the editor of the book Empty Hands Made Full. Hello, Blair.
Hello, Jacqueline. It's so nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too, and thank you for accepting my invitation.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk about the book and talk to you about it.
Oh, yes. Well, Blair, give my listeners a little bit about you in 1 minute or less. Tell them about you.
Oh, 1 minute or less. Okay.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I've been a lifelong reader. Like I put in my bio, you never saw me without a book in my hand from, age 1 to now. So pretty much over the course of my life, I kind of went into writing and editing just because I love to read. And the more that I was writing and editing, the more I felt like I was getting to be part of people's stories, like telling their stories, giving them encouragement that they had something to share about their business or their, health journey or anything like that. I just found it so exciting that I got to be part of that and kind of encourage them to see, no, you have something to share that might be something that somebody needs to hear right now. So that just kind of naturally transitioned into writing, into editing for magazines initially. And then I got into books about a decade ago. And that obviously was a whole different beast outside of magazine writing. And then obviously, when you're an editor, people always ask like, oh, so when are you going to write your book? And after a few years, I was like, no, I'm not. I have no interest to write a book. I see the process it takes for people to write a book. Some people, it's 20 years or so that they write a book. And it's like, I don't have that in me, a topic I really want to write about. That's just not in me. But that definitely changed during 2020.
Yes, and that's what we're going to talk about. So, yeah. Blair, your book is on infertility. And not only is it on infertility, throughout the book, you share stories in the Bible to let the readers know that this has been going on for years. And you also use scripture to comfort them. That's what really got me. You have a lot of revelation about what the scripture said. It's like everything, what is it? There's nothing new under the sun.
Yeah.
And although I've read these scriptures, I guess because I wasn't affected by it, I never thought that, these stories in the Bible are women who were dealing with infertility and bring this all out. So did you know this as a student before you started having this journey of infertility, or did you learn this as you were on the journey reading your word? Did you get the revelation then?
As I was reading, basically in 2020, there were news pieces all over the place that said, oh, all these people are going to have babies. It's just going to be a flurry of children happening. So at that point, my husband and I, had been about 4 years of us trying to start a family, and we thought, okay, well, maybe this is when that happens. But of course, towards the course of the year, nothing had changed. And I kept, usually when I'm having a problem or something, I usually look towards books to kind of read that are something on the topic I'm reading about or I'm concerned about. So I just kept looking for infertility books, and I couldn't find anything that related to what I wanted to know most about infertility. And it was, what does God say about infertility? What is his purpose through infertility? Because people obviously would say, you just need to pray about it more. Maybe God's got another direction for you. Like all of these things that really didn't comfort me.
Right.
So one day I was in my living room and I just felt God saying into me, well, why don't you write a book? And I was like, that's not me, God. We've already established that's not me. And he was like, no. He's like, you need to write the book. And I was like, okay, well, we'll just see. So obviously in part of my researching, I studied, is infertility even in the Bible? Because like you said, unless you're in that situation, you don't specifically look for it.
Right.
And I was shocked to see, yes, there are several stories of infertility in the Bible. And, when you stop and think, it's not as big of a deal now But think back to when Mary was around, when Abraham and Sarah, like if you didn't have children, you were seen as almost like cursed by God. Like God was mad at you about something. So it just was to see those stories and read them with a new perspective of, well, I'm in the same position as them. It was like, wow. Like,
right. And Hannah,
but she was the one I connected with the most, because I felt like how she was reacting to it was how I felt I was reacting to it. Seeing women around me getting pregnant with no problem. Right. And then there's me, and I have no idea. And I was obviously trying to put on a brave face, but it's so hard.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that. I want to go to this part, though. You start the book off, and I want to read this Psalm 127, verses 3-5. And you use the New King James Version. You said, it says, behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. Happy is the man who has his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but shall speak with their enemies in the gate. And you put emphasis on the fruit of the womb is a reward. And so I was reading it and I was thinking, yeah, I know I always say the fruit of the womb is a reward, but in that saying that, did that make you feel, because you didn't say this in the book, you put a positive spin on it, but I thought about, if it says the fruit of the womb is reward and then I can't have any, does it make me feel like I can't have that reward, or what's wrong with me? Or so speak of that.
Oh yeah. That's initially how I viewed it as well too. It was like, okay, does that mean that I can't be rewarded even though I did nothing really wrong? But it comes back to the belief of pregnancy is a gift from God. Children are a gift from God. Right. Because you can see tons of people that are the healthiest they could be. They have, money for all of the technology they need to have babies, and yet they still don't have children. And so it's kind of, I guess, getting out of the negative perspective of it, I try to see it as a positive of, it's a gift that God is giving you that you didn't earn or deserve or anything. God was like, I want you to have this. So that's where I felt like the verse changed for me a bit, to where I could see it as, it's a gift. It's not meant to hurt you. It's to help you, but it's also in God's time, which is not our time. So
right. And so I want you to just give us just a little bit, if you can give me just a little bit of you and your husband's journey over. Sure. Just, yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, my husband and I, we met, dated, got engaged and married in 4 months. Wow. So when people see that, they're like, whoa. And it was like, and trust us, we were, not young people. We were both in our 30s. So it wasn't like we were immature in any way. Right. But because of the quickness of us getting married, we were like, we're going to wait a year, kind of get to know each other, kind of get used to married life, and then, start children. And both of us had the assumption we're not going to have any trouble. We're still, healthy and young. So about 6 months into trying the first year, nothing was really happening. And usually they say, if it's been a year of you trying and nothing's happened, that's when you probably should consider talking to somebody, a infertility specialist. But after 6 months, I was like, I really want to check and see if everything's okay and everything. And so we went to a couple appointments and saw that there were some things we did need to check out and get through, and some stuff that was a little bit more than we expected. So, long story short, we tried a couple of fertility treatments that didn't end up working. And then about 2019, we were with our current doctor, who I mentioned in the book, Dr. McNichol. And we had another fertility treatment that didn't work. So we were like, okay, we're just going to take a year and then start back up again in 2020. And then 2020 happened, and that changed our plans. So in 2021, we decided to, start talking to our doctor again about fertility options. We hadn't done IVF yet. It was just expense wise, not in the budget. And then literally after I sent my book to the publisher, I got pregnant naturally, and it was a shock. We were so surprised. But unfortunately we had a miscarriage soon after. And even though that it's still hard, I still deal with it from time to time. We try to look at it from a positive light of, we did get pregnant naturally. So if God didn't want this to happen, he wouldn't have made it happen. So, so we kind of try to keep that in the forefront of our mind. And then, speed up to this year, we tried another fertility treatment. It didn't work. So, then we decided some other options.
Right. Okay. So I want to go to where you got to a point where you said, it's God's plan, not yours. So first of all, how did you get to that point? And share with them how you use the biblical story of the two sons, the prodigal son.
Okay. Yes. For that story, it kind of drifted away from being women focused, obviously. But whenever I read that story, I always think about the older brother and the younger son, and how obviously the older brother did everything he was supposed to do. He didn't grieve his father like his younger brother did, but yet, he's very bitter about everything that happened. Wasn't happy when his brother returned, and but yeah, obviously, as people read, he lets his dad know he's very upset with him. And I thought about, that's a lot like the infertility journey, where you see people that maybe weren't trying to get pregnant and now they are, and you're looking at them going, I don't want to go to their baby shower. I don't want to congratulate them. I don't want to ask how they're doing, because I did everything right and I'm not getting what I want. So it was just when I looked through that, I was like, wow, like talk about a mirror put in your face and going, wow, I am the older brother. And it was just, it was shocking. And then I just love, obviously, the father's remark that he was like, I'm still going to give you what I'm going to give you. Just because his is different doesn't mean yours isn't any better or anything like that. You're still going to get what I want to give you. And it touched me in such a big way that it's very convicting, but in a good way, in terms of, I really need to, I don't have to be. And I think that's what a lot of women have a difficulty with, is like, how can I be happy when I'm so sad in this position? Like, how do I go to baby showers and be happy for my friend or my sister or whoever, when it's a sad time for me? I don't know if I'll get to experience that. And it's, that's a lot of you and God talking it out. And sometimes you have to go, look, I can't go. I'm having a hard time with this right now. But know that I love you and I'm supporting you and everything like that. And, the people who truly love you and truly understand the journey you're on, they will respect that and go, I understand. It's okay. I still love you. I know you're supporting me. So it's kind of like, it's hard to get to the realization that it's God's plan, but it's kind of like a daily, like they say, a daily surrender bit, where you have to go, I don't know what the situation holds. I don't know what's ahead, but I'm going to trust God, because he's the only one that does know.
Right. Okay. So another good point you made is you had to learn that you're not being punished. Yeah. Talk about that. Yeah.
It's, you can feel that way when you're going through the infertility. You're thinking, is God mad at me about something? Did I do something like a sin I didn't repent from, or something I said that was wrong? I mean, it's a laundry list of what women can go through, and thinking, what did I do to deserve this? And it goes back to the biblical stories that I shared in the beginning of the book, where a lot of these women were like, what did I do wrong? Or what's God mad at me about? Because that's like the normal idea is like, well, God can make anything happen. why isn't he making this happen to me? And you just assume like he's mad at me about something. I didn't do something right, but it's getting back in that mindset of it's not based on your works or whatever you do or don't do. It's the plan that God has for you.
Okay. And so, one of the things you mentioned in that you say as much as 20% of women may be waiting until after they turn 35 to start trying to have children, which is the age doctors consider to be when a woman's fertility begins to take a nosedive. Though reports can vary. You make sure you say that these reports can vary.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
Usually, and it's not, I don't have a whole lot of data, just me. And let me just start by saying I was one of those women. When I hear people talking about having trouble having a baby or something like that, it's usually the people that are 35 and over, the people that are saying it. And I don't know if it's because women are putting it out for careers or whatever. I don't know. But that usually fits, like I said, even true for myself. And so another thing, good things you got was Hannah. I want to talk about Hannah's plight. That's so good. This is really good.
Oh my gosh, yes. So basically, Hannah is probably a lot of us dealing with infertility. She was one of two wives. The second wife just was able to have children, no problem. But Hannah had trouble, just could not. And like many of us, she couldn't hide the fact that she was sad by this. She didn't eat. She'd cry all the time to where her husband would say, what are you upset about? What can I provide for you? What are you not happy with what I have? And it was really amazing to think about that it was like, wow, like I'm Hannah position. Like that's me where I'm looking at all these people having children and I'm like, I don't understand. So, I mean, long story short, so she goes to the temple to pray to God and to do what, maybe doesn't make sense in her mind to do. But in the same breath, she's like, I need to talk to God. I need to give to him, what is his, and I need to give this to his feet. And she was crying and so overcome with emotion that the priest that was there came around and thought that she was drunk. And he said, don't do this here. Don't be this way here. You need to leave. And she was going, I'm not drunk. I'm very sober, but I'm so overcome with emotion for what I'm dealing with that I have to talk to God about this. And he was so moved by her that he was like, okay, God has heard your petition, go at peace. And she was, and she went in peace. She ate, she slept, she was, rested, and she conceived Samuel. And she promised to God, if you give me a child, I will give him back to you. And she held to that promise, even though that was probably harder than anything, is that this child she waited for, now she's giving it back to the Lord. But, as it says, she went on to have more children because she honored that promise. That was easy for her to go, okay, God, thanks for the baby, but not going to follow with the other promise. She could have easily said that, but she didn't. She honored what she agreed to with God, and God blessed her in the process. So
right, and gave her, blessed her by giving her more children.
Yes.
Okay, I want to back up on something because you made good points about this story in the book. Her husband. This treatment caused Hannah to be depressed, frequently cry, and not eat, which led Elkanah to question how she could be so upset when she had everything she needed, especially him. And you go on to bring out the point that when experiencing infertility, husband and wives can feel the same way. And often we just think about the woman and not about the man, but men are hurting too. And we know that Isaiah, when he prayed for his wife, they're hurting too. And so talk about, if you can, how Jeremy felt, his journey a little along this way.
Sure. Well, Jeremy's actually one of 4 boys. So, so obviously when you come from a big family, you think children are that's for everybody. If you come from a big family, that means you'll have a big family. So I think we kind of came to the assumption thinking because of that, we won't have problem in that regard. But unfortunately, that just wasn't the case. And Jeremy has gone through a lot in his life. So I think he kind of handled it well, like didn't let it affect him as much. But in time, little things would come out and you could tell he was upset by it, that it was like, are we going to have a family? Is it, if we do, are we going to be too old to enjoy our children? Are we going to have to chase after them with walkers or something? Because that's when it is. So I think and unfortunately, a lot of people will put it more towards the woman because the woman is obviously the more emotional one that's going to talk about it more, express it more, whereas a husband probably won't, that he will go, I'm okay. I'm here for her and everything. But yeah, it's still upsetting to experience that. And a lot of guys probably don't talk about it with one another.
Right.
So there's not usually an outlet for them at times to go, I'm really upset about this.
And so, Elkanah, back to Hannah's husband, he did have two wives, and the first wife taunted her. Do you ever feel like people who know what's going on with you in your journey, have you ever had anyone in your life to try to use that to hurt you, to intentionally, not I'm talking about intentional hurt?
Intentional hurt. I think it's not intentional, but I think a lot of it is just being ignorant of it, just saying things that may not be the right thing to say, which is why I included the second half of the book for that, which is people just sometimes saying, what did I read? Like some people like to do like a checklist type thing. Like, okay, well, I said something nice to the lady that's dealing with infertility. Check, I'm a good Christian. But they're not really thinking, maybe what you're saying is actually hurting them more than helping them. So I think it's more of, I don't think, I think some people may have thought like, well, at least I'm not in Blair's situation or something like that. Not realizing that still hurts. Or just some people don't, kind of like with grief, they don't want to say anything to hurt you or to think of in that position. Like, wow, if I were in that position, what would I do? Some people just don't say anything because they don't want to do anything wrong or think about it at all. So I think I don't think anybody really did anything to purposely hurt me, but it was just more of ignorance on the situation and trying to like smooth it over without fully realizing what we were experiencing.
Right. So speak about the importance of sharing your feelings with others. Now, this was what's the word I want to say? Let me start over. This was surprising to me that you and the other women, all of you said that you wished you would have shared with women what you were going through earlier. Now, talk about that and say why.
Well, basically with the women that I interviewed, they were all different ages, races, different ways infertility had infected their life. I think it's because it's something you don't understand, you don't really want to talk about it, or it's something that's upsetting, or you feel like that's all you can talk about. Like, oh well, there's Blair again wanting to talk about that she can't have a kid again. So it's kind of like we try to kind of hide it because it may seem easier to us to not talk about it, when it's like, no, you need to let these people know, hey, this is what we're going through. Could you please pray for us? Or, hey, I'm having a really hard time with this. Can you go and spend some time with me and let me talk to you about it? It's kind of like it's important to put yourself out there to let people know what's going on, because the beauty of it is if you share that with people, several of them will go, oh yeah, my sister's going through infertility. I know exactly what you're talking about. Or, oh yeah, I went through infertility, or my mom went through infertility. Like, you'll find people that'll go, no, I know what you're talking about. And instead of feeling alone, like, you now have found people you can talk to that can say, hey, this scripture helped me when I was having a rough time in this, or, I just gave it to God, and then in time I had peace about it. And then this happened. So it's kind of like, you kind of isolate yourself because it may seem easier, but you're missing out on all the support of people who could help you, and you could help them.
Right. And Blair, you talk about how some women, it's to the point that it kept them in the bed, just depressed, just crying, just hurting, the pain of it, the shame, and also the shame of it, of just not getting pregnant. Okay, so Blair, you attended an event for a baby shower, and you were, none of you were familiar with each other. So the host had each of you go around and tell a little about yourself, and specifically tell how many children you had and your husband and so forth. The last one. Okay, talk about that. I thought that was great.
So the person hosting the event was actually my friend. So I naively thought that she would, because she knew our journey. So I was like, okay, so she'll understand all that kind of stuff. And obviously I was going in there not thinking that would all be addressed to everybody. Like, hey, how many children you have? So she just wanted to go around the table and say, okay, everybody, mention who your name is. Since we don't know, I'll know each other, how long you've been married, how many kids you have. And I kind of like did like one of the side eyes at her, like, are you serious? Thinking you're gonna, and of course, that, like you said, I was the last one at the table, and every single person in the group had kids, was married. So it gets to me, and I'm like, okay, well, I've been married for some odd years. My husband is Jeremy. And I said, and we don't have children. We're going through infertility right now. Like, I was on the spot. There was not much more I could say, but God used it for good, because every lady's eyes was like on me at that point. Not like, they were just like, oh, wow. Like, you don't have any children, and like, I was explaining more of my journey, and they just were like riveted to what I was talking about. And even one of the ladies said, oh, wow, I think my cousin has infertility issues, because she's going through, I have PCO, which means I have one ovary that, doesn't want to play well with hormones and everything, doesn't want to play nicely. But that's a big condition that a lot of women dealing with infertility have. And it can give you everything from mood swings to you lose your hair, to you grow hair where you're not supposed to a lot of things. And she said, no, I think my cousin has this condition. She said, we just all thought she was moody. And, there again, it's like, that was kind of like, well, maybe you should support her instead of just assuming that she's just being an emotional female or something. So it was kind of like, it was an awkward situation that God used for good. And I wanted to put that in the book, because it's like, you might be in a situation where that pops up and you go, I don't know what to do with this. And God will go, just let it go. And I'll take care of it. I'll do it to where it'll be good.
Yeah, and you're educating, you're able to educate the people. Okay, so the other one I want to talk about is being content.
My aunt actually gave me the verse from that Paul gave. Like, I learned to be content and full and starving. I've learned to be content where God has me. She actually gave me that verse when I was struggling with being single, and that verse applies also to handling children as well, as because you have learned what it's like to be this and what it's like to be that, what it's like to be this, what it's like to be that. So and it's a definitely identity for women. A lot of it is associated to being a mom. Like, if you don't want to be a mom, it's still looked upon as, well, why not? Why don't you want to be a mom? Like, that, isn't that something inside of you that you have to have happen? And for several women, it's yes. But it's, just because you may not be able to have children, or you don't have children at the time you want to, that doesn't make you less of a woman. It just, it's just part of your journey. And I especially dealt with identity issues about wanting to be a mom, and then struggling to reach to try and be a mom, that it was like, do I have anything to talk about with other women? Because I don't have children's stories to share. And it was like, that was, talk about the biggest lie from Satan that you can think of for a woman. It was like, you can be a mom to animals. You can be a mom to your family members or your friends or the community. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be only a mom to your own kids. So that was really where God opened my eyes a lot to that, and showed me where the path I was going. That is like, you don't need to go down this path and think this is only it. He's like, look at all that your life has been, like you've done in your life through following me. Don't think that it's got to be all overshadowed by the fact that you don't have a child. So yeah, it was
right.
It's hard to be content.
Yeah. And then you use the Shunammite woman on about that also.
Yes.
Tell a little bit about her story.
That was another one that just came through my research. I was like, I don't even remember reading this before. But I love the story because she represents to me the epitome of being somebody going through infertility, where it's like she and her husband struggled with it, but they didn't let it stop them living their life. They were active in their community. When this prophet came into town, they were like, no, you can stay with us. And they accommodated him and everything like that. Their sadness didn't stop them from doing good for everything. And I just love at the end where the prophet says, what do you want? And she goes, I'm fine. I'm okay. And that was like the vision of a contentment where she wasn't like, oh my gosh, I need this right now or something like that. Like she just was like, I'm okay. And then he said, this time next year, you'll have a child. And I love her response, which is like, don't tell me that, because she was like, don't tell me what probably all of the false prophets and people in the community had told her. Is like, oh, it's going to happen then. And she's like, I don't need to hear it. If it's not going to happen, I want to continue on with my life. So it's just such a good story.
Right. And it was actually her servant that told the prophet that that one of the things she longed for. So she never tried to use her service or anything she did to try to tell someone that. But you made this so clear. I was like, oh, that's so good. And it's 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 16. And you said her reply is what spoke volumes. She said, no, my Lord, man of God, do not lie to your maidservant. So that right there, it's like all of her feelings just came out then. Everything she had been holding in, it came out to say, no, I didn't even ask you for this. And now you're telling me this. Don't tell me this. I know the journey. I know how tough it's been. I was thinking, goodness. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
So good.
It is. I wanted to talk about what you and Jeremy did. You all decided to, instead of wasting time or spending your days and night thinking about having a child, you all started doing other activities together. Talk about those activities.
We did. It's kind of like when you look back on a journey, you see how God orchestrates things. And, we got to travel to places together and enjoy traveling together. We have a heart for single people. We have a lot of older single friends. So we try to do parties or things like that to where everybody feels welcome there. We volunteered at different places, obviously helped out families and any kind of obligations there. And so we kind of like, we kept living, even if we were struggling with what we were struggling with. It was like, it could be that we don't have children. And so we don't want to waste the time that we do have together just sitting here going, okay, well, our life is over because of this. So, yeah, we've made the most of the time we had. And especially since we didn't date a lot before we got married, it kind of gave us more time to get to know one another. And, really, I would say really know each other more to where it's like, yes, like confirmation even more of, yes, God has placed us together for a reason. So
that's good. Oh, that's good. Now, we're going to go into things that you shouldn't say. I'm glad you put this in the book.
Me too.
You shouldn't say. Now, the reason why I'm kind of hesitant is because you struck my heart, because the whole time I was reading the book, I kept saying, why don't they just adopt? Mm-hmm. And I think about people who don't have children that I know, and I'm thinking, why don't you just adopt? That's always my first thought. And when I read how you broke that down and explained, I was like, oh my goodness. But I was so grateful that you educated us, you know? But you go ahead and talk about that.
Well, that was really the idea from the book from the start. Is I really wanted to share with people, not really a do's and don'ts type thing of what you should and shouldn't say, but like you said, educating people on why this may not be the best thing to say, why this may not be the best decision, or something, suggestion. And adoption obviously is something that a lot of people say, and it's remembering that it's coming from a loving heart that people say it. They're not, saying, well, just get a dog and get over it, or, anything of that nature, because people who haven't gone through adoption don't really know the extent of it, that it can be just as hard as going through fertility treatments, sometimes even more expense wise. And I didn't know that. Well, I'm in the same boat as a lot of people. I thought to myself, well, why didn't I just adopt or something like that? But the problem with, adoption is not a problem with adoption. It's more of understanding with adoption is that it's not very easy to adopt if you want to adopt a baby. There's a lot to it expense wise. There's a lot to it. You have to put your whole personal life out there for the social workers and everybody to know. They're going to want to know how are you going to discipline your child? Do you have anything questionable that they can't be around? How are you going to protect your house against a child to make sure that they are not a danger? And, and it's the biggest thing to me was the idea of, if you adopt a baby, you could go through all the process, go to get the baby from the hospital, and the birth mom go, I changed my mind, I'm keeping the baby. And so there you go, with a nursery at home waiting for that baby, people waiting for that baby, and you have to go back. And I mentioned in the book about the singer Laura's story. She and her husband went through that. They went all the way there to go adopt a little girl, and the mom changed her mind, and she said it devastated me. And she said I went back to the nursery that we had all set up, and I sat there and cried, because she was like, I don't know what God's do. Why would God do that? So
that's about like having a miscarriage.
So it's like, I don't see his plan in this. He's supposed to be a loving God. This doesn't feel loving to me. But like in terms of the do's and don'ts, it's the biggest thing that I wanted people to know from that section of the book is to kind of be slow to anger, slow to speak type thing from the Bible, where it's like, take a moment to think about what you're going to say, and kind of put yourself in that person's shoes, that okay, if somebody said that to me, would I feel appreciative of it? Would I feel loved by what you said? Or would I feel like you're just pushing my situation to the side? Like, oh, well, I solved it. Here's a solution. There you go. And it's like, but that's not how this works.
But Blair, honestly, I would think when I'm saying it that I am trying to help you. Until I read this, like I said, you educated me in this book. Until I read this, I thought I was comforting them with those words. I thought I was helping them. So, be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to anger, slow to wrath. I would have been thinking that is how I'm comforting them, giving them another solution. So,
and it is, but also think that how many people have suggested that to them. And there's probably like one more person is like, oh, okay.
but because you don't know what it feels like, or you don't even know, that's why the book is so important. You don't even know the journey. And we don't have, just like you said, you searched to try to find this and you couldn't. So we don't have a lot of this out here to educate. Thank God for podcasts.
Yeah.
The Informative Conversations podcast, because we are informative.
That's right.
And so I want to just mention something about some of the ladies, because you spoke with some ladies, but I take the lady Cindy, and oh my goodness, how the church just thought, well, they don't have any children, so they can do this or they can do that, or they can assign things to them, to that they can just be doing. In other words, you don't have any children, so you can have time to be doing everything for the church. That
pretty
people
much.
Right. People shouldn't do that and take that for granted. Another one was Nancy and her husband, Nick. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Since they are an older couple, the advice they often receive is geared more toward questions of why they would try to have children at their age instead of encouragement to see what God does in their lives. I mean, who makes those kind of decisions for people? But we do, as humans, we do think like that in someone else's business. Mm-hmm. So share more about that.
Well, I think a lot of that can be from Christian folk as well, where it's, that we're feeling that, well, I have to share the truth or be honest with my fellow brothers and sisters in Christ because that's what God calls us to do. So I think it comes, like you said, it comes from a loving heart that's like, I'm just trying to let you know, like in the case of Nancy and Nick, that, it might be better for you just to kind of reject the parenting dream and just move on with your life. You're just too old for it now. Where it's more of, you're not, you could say, this is my opinion in terms of this is why I feel like you shouldn't be parents, but I trust God has a plan for you. So that's what I'm going to pray for, is the plan that God has for you. That is just, and the case with Cindy was, that's a common thing in churches. Because I bring up about when I was single, and they would always be like, oh, you can do this ministry and this ministry because you don't have a husband at home and you don't have kids at home. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't mean I don't want to serve, but that doesn't mean I have ample time to do everything. It's like, I do have a life as well. I do want to have time with God. Like so I can grow in this time. And I just, churches are so hungry for volunteers and people to help that they just kind of throw people in there without really saying, is this something that you would like to do, that God has called you to do?
Right. And now talk about the importance of staying in contact with those who are going through infertility.
That's very important. And I related a lot to grief as well, because obviously, like when you go through a funeral, everybody's there to help you, tons of food. What can I help you with? Everything like that. And it could be the same if you have a miscarriage or you share with people, like we're going through infertility. Everybody's there to help you, to check up on you. What's going on? How can we pray? Everything. And then in time, people move on and get focused on their lives, and they forget about it. And not that they forget about you, but I think because you're not calling them and sobbing on the phone, or but you kind of isolated yourself from them, that they think, okay, well, she must be okay now. They must be okay now. I don't need to worry about them and stuff. When it's like, no, that's when you really need to reach out to them again and say, hey, like Mother's Day's coming up. Like, how are you doing? Is that hard? Or can I take you out? Or, hey, let's do a pool party at our house on Mother's Day. And that's what I loved about the one lady that said, like, her group of friends will go out on Mother's Day, just them, and they'll do a brunch together, or they'll do something. Right. And then they don't all have kids, but they just celebrate that, and it gets their mind off of things. And it's like, it's just something simple like that you could do to make the person feel better.
Right. And like what I really love about Cindy's is her husband, because we know that church, Mother's Day is huge in church. It's very much celebrated, which it should be. And we're grateful for that. But her husband encouraged her to go to her mother's instead of going to church, and just spend the day with her and be surrounded, not have to deal with all the celebration of motherhood. And I thought that was good. And it's okay to miss that day, especially if it's something that could really hurt you. It's okay,
Yes, it is. Yeah. Some people don't come when it's like baby dedication day or, graduation day or anything like that. Cause it's hard. It's a reminder, and it always will be a reminder. And the biggest thing is too, I was part of a infertility support group a couple years ago. And one lady finally had this baby she prayed for and that went through such a journey for. And she said, just because I had the baby doesn't mean I'm entirely healed from the journey we went through to get here.
Oh, that's
she
good.
Was like, I'm still going to have to talk about it. I'm still going to have to cry about it. I'm still going to have to ask God why. Like, and she had a story to tell too, that it was like, it's not an instant. I have the baby. I feel much better now. It's like, no.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And see, I'm thinking that it would. It's like, okay, now I've gotten the answer.
It's different for every woman, though. It's different for every woman. And that's the biggest thing in the book, too, is to let everybody know everybody's journey is different. So you shouldn't get in the comparison trap, which we ladies like to get into, where it's like, well, I'm comparing my life to her journey. And it's like, you can't, because that's the journey God had for her. This is the journey God has for you.
Mm-hmm. And you know something, every Mother's Day, because I have friends that can't have children for one reason or another, that they won't ever have children. And their heart, my heart goes out to them every Mother's Day. And I have children, I have some friends that just really, really want to have children, and Mother's Day is so hard for them. And I always think, what can I do? And sometimes I think, I'm going to have a dinner and I'm going to invite everyone who can't have a child or who doesn't have a child to come over on dinner for Mother's Day or something. But what is something you would suggest to do? Because my heart goes out for them. It's like, it's nothing I can do to help my friends.
That's sometimes the biggest thing could be just distraction, just to say, hey, let's go see a movie today, or let's go walk around, in the park or something, and just talk about, whatever, bring it up. If they want to talk about it, then you talk about it with them. If they don't want to bring it up at all, there's tons of other things to talk about. So I think the biggest thing is just like distraction, because even though it's still in their head, it's the idea of, but I'm spending time with somebody who's making me laugh, who's making me cry happy tears, like somebody who's happy with who I am, even though I don't have a child. So I would say, like, just try to enjoy time with them. Let them know they're still special and you still love them.
Right. Okay. And one of the ways you in this chapter use scripture verses, so I want to recite those. Okay. Romans 12:15. You said the Apostle Paul encourages believers to rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. And Psalms 34:18, which is your favorite, it's one of my favorites too. The Lord is near to those who have a broken heart and saves such as have a contrite spirit. How many times have I said that? Yes.
Yes.
So you can share the word with them and talk. Being considerate when sharing stories, pictures, or advice to someone going through infertility. We already talked about advice, but when they share stories and pictures, because you want to be, the word you used wasn't jealous. And I said, she never used the word jealous, but it was another word that you used. And it wasn't jealousy, it wasn't envy. It was a positive word, but it hurt. But it let you know that it hurt. But you talk about how you can be affected, or you're telling people to be considered when they're sharing those stories and pictures, especially.
Well, I think we all have a tendency, whether it's babies or spouses or jobs or church or houses, we tend to, when we're around people we love, we'll complain about stuff. Oh my gosh, my boss is awful. This is what they're doing now. Oh, my husband doesn't pick up the laundry like I want. I'm so mad at him. And so we could do that with kids. Like, oh my gosh, like little Johnny was throwing a tantrum at the grocery store and I was so embarrassed and blah, 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 blah. Or look at them, like, aren't they so cute and everything like that, when it's like, okay, that's great. Like, I don't have any show on my phone, or, like you're saying, I got a problem with my child with this. Well, I don't have a child. I don't know how to help you. And some people say that and they don't want, you to give them solution. They just want to vent. But it's hard when you're thinking, I don't have a child, I can't really relate. That, you know, it's not that I don't appreciate it, but it's like, I don't need to see all that. I don't know what to tell you. It's just kind of like we said, pausing before you send something and going, should I send this? Or I've already sent them 5 pictures in the last 2 days. Maybe I should wait on this one, because it might be that one picture that they're like, look, please don't send me any more pictures of your kids. I don't want to see them. Same thing. So it's just a kind of a pausing and waiting, thinking about it before you send it.
I remember my son, he was 2, and we were at the airport, and he was just full of energy, and he was going around. He just kept going around in a circle in front of me, but sometimes he could come across and hit my foot, and I kept trying to grab him to sit him down, and he would sit down. And then I'm reading or trying to do something, and he would be up again in the circle, and I kept saying, you got to sit down, and I sit him down. But there was this really older lady, and she knew, she could see that I was getting frustrated with, and she walked over to me, a total stranger, and she touched me on my shoulder, and she said, Mom, leave that baby alone. There are so many women out here who wish their children had the energy to be able to run around like that. I said, ma'am. And, you know, that was very powerful to me. You know, how, back to how because I'm sure when some people hear those stories, they're thinking, I just want to be able to experience it. You know, if I had a child, I don't know if I would complain like that, you know. I had one man to tell me after he lost his wife that he loved so dearly. He said some things, small things that I would complain about, they're not important. I wouldn't even complain about them, you know. So
yeah, and kind of like the say, like that lady said to you, there's some people that, you know, their child's in a wheelchair or is not able, like bedridden, and they would love to see their child. They'd be like, yes, run around me, that's fine, just keep doing it. But I mean, it's all about perspective. It's like when somebody kind of brings that to your eyes, you go, wow, okay, like I really should be thankful for this. And yeah, that's what a lot of it is. It's like when a lady dealing with infertility says, hey, you know, you should just be happy that your kids are healthy. You could go, wow, yeah, I need to get out of my complaining spirit and go, I'm really thankful for these messy kids. So
yes, exactly. Speak about the second child infertility.
Yeah, that's a big thing too, because I've, like I said in the book, I pretty much was guilty of thinking the same thing too. Is when a lady has trouble conceiving a second child or sometimes a third child, there's third child infertility. Women typically that are going through primary for infertility will go, well, you already have one child, you know, you should be happy for that. When you're not thinking, you know, they're now experiencing what you're experiencing, and they are even more confused by it because it's like, I didn't have a problem with my first child. Why am I having a problem with my second child? And it can be even more isolating for couples going through that, because you still have the confusion of people that don't really know how to interact with infertility. And then you have people going through infertility that almost feel like, well, you don't have anything to relate to us because you have a kid and you didn't have a problem. And, you know, you shouldn't isolate people that way, whether it's their first child they're having trouble conceiving or their fifth child they're having trouble conceiving. It's still a difficult thing, and it's something that's growing too, that it's more women are experiencing that. So so it's just kind of realizing, like, you can't just say, well, you can only be at this standard because you've had a kid and, you know, you're not part of the group type thing. It's like, no, it's still affecting them the same way it's affecting you.
As you pray for those going through infertility, see their journey as God teaching us all the preciousness of life. Talk about that.
Because it kind of like when with any time with prayer, it really slows you down to kind of get like your pure thing of what you're doing is you're praying. And so all the distractions are out of the way. You're just sitting there. You're just talking to God. You're just laying out what's on your heart. And when somebody prays for somebody to have a child, you really get the idea of, wow, it truly is a gift. Like pregnancy is a gift. A child is a gift, because when you honestly, on a scientific perspective, when you really see all it goes into having a baby, it's not a wishing a genie in a bottle or anything like that. It's not how that works. So like when you really pray for somebody going through infertility, you really realize like, wow, like life is so precious. You know, it's like, you know, we're like a vapor and then we're gone. And it's just the realization that as you're praying, you're realizing, you know, wow, God is the creator of everything. He can make the impossible happen. You know, I really want this for this couple to have a child. If it's your will, and literally laying it at his feet and saying, okay, you know, it's up to you, God, what you want to do. And we'll be happy with what you decide because it's for the best. And yeah, it's powerful. It's always powerful to pray for somebody and not just not be thinking of yourself, but really saying, I'm praying for this person. And what's great on their heart is now great on mine. Because a lot of times in infertility, you want to shut God out because you think he's let you down and disappointed you. And you're like, I don't want to hear what he has to say. All he's doing is hurting me. He's not telling me what I need to know. And I speak that from experience. I was like, you know, I cried out several times saying, you know, God, why put this desire in my heart if you're not going to do anything with it? And it's like, just take it away. And that's not what he wanted to do. So he was like, you got to put this book together first. So
right. I was about to say, had you not gone through that pain, we wouldn't have this book that can help so many women.
The amazing thing with my book is a lot of older women that were pregnancy, loss, miscarriage was not talked about are reading my book and going, wow, I'm feeling comfort I haven't had for 30, 40, 50 years about this situation in my life. And that, you know, that was shocking. Like when women say that, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is not what I was expecting. But they said, that's what I needed to hear, that I've been grappling with for years. And it's powerful, just powerful.
Wow. Yeah. And see, it takes me back to what all of you, I was really surprised that all of you agreed. We wish we had shared our stories more. We had told people what we were going through. And I'm looking at how much it helps and educates us.
Yes.
Which is very important when we do that. And also, you know, we're not going to go through them, but you give a lot of resources for people to. But I hope that this message really comforts people who are going through infertility, those that aren't able to have children, to know that it's very important to know that it's nothing that they did wrong. And I'm glad that you make that very clear in the book.
Yes.
So,
yes.
I want to ask you, what would you say to my listeners to encourage them about infertility?
Well, what is encouraging with infertility is more research is being done. So when we talked earlier about the statistic of, well, once you turn 35, like everything just goes downhill with you wanting to start a family. That's the more research they're doing, the more they're seeing that's not necessarily true. They're seeing that women past 35 are having children without problems. There's a Hollywood actress, she had 4 kids after 40. Unheard of. Yeah, I know. But so it's, and one of my family members just let me know that now they have treatments for endometriosis, which that was a leading thing of why a lot of women couldn't conceive. And knowing friends that have endometriosis, it's what they endure every month is awful. That it's like, it's good to know that there's more research being put into it. There's more amazing doctors like my doctor, Dr. Nickel, that's giving hope to women to say, look, maybe this doctor felt this way, but I don't. I feel this is the path we need to go. So it's kind of like, just because they may say you're dealing with infertility, that's not a death sentence. It's, it means it's a different part of your path, and infertility can be reversed for men and for women, because it could be both sides having issues. So my encouragement is that there's more hope in getting diagnosed, finding out what issues you're having, because there's things out there that can help you to where you can have that baby, or, you can at least feel better if you're dealing with problems of some kind. There is hope out there. There is research, there is help, but it's best to get checked out to see what exactly is going on, so that you can get the help that you need.
Okay. Blair, thank you. Now, are you and Jeremy still trying?
Yes, we are. This summer, we, surprisingly enough, and we all credit it to God, my doctor had a discount on IVF. So on one round of IVF, it was reasonable within our budget. And Jeremy and I talked about it. I've told him from the start, if we do IVF, I'm only doing one round. I'm not doing multiple rounds and driving us into debt. That's just, I just don't want to go down that path. So we're like, we're going to do one round, see what happens. If it doesn't work, then we said we tried everything. And it felt like that would have been the closure we needed to move on to whatever else God had. So we did IVF, we did one round. And in August of this year, we found out we're pregnant, and I'm currently 11 weeks.
Oh, congratulations. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great news. That is great.
It is such a blessing. But I mean, we're still holding our breaths, getting to each part of the pregnancy, because it's a scary journey. And I bring up too IVF, because that's another decision your husband and God have to reach, because there's some people that are very against IVF, don't want anything to do with it. It's a scary process. You have to mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, socially, everything, prepare for it, because it takes the toll on you, and you have to be ready for it. So I encourage people that do.
No, go ahead.
I encourage people that do, just to, just be kind to yourself through that time, because, your emotions can be all over the place. You don't really feel great at times. So just be nice to yourself, nice to your husband. And also realize, like, it may not be the path that you need to take. Like, there are other options as well. That's why I want to go back again to talking to a trusted medical professional for infertility, because they're the best ones to tell you if this is a viable choice, or if there's other considerations. Some people, they do surrogacy, where, if they can't carry the baby, there are wonderful women out there that are willing to do it for you. And you can have egg donation, where somebody donates an egg. If your eggs are not where they need to be, you could still have a child. You could still carry that child, even if it's not, quote unquote, your egg. So, for that, I would just say definitely pray on that to see what God leads for you there.
Can you summarize the process of IVF?
Sure. It's, well, basically, it's what the process is it's trying to get as many eggs in your ovaries to get to the point where they can be released. And then you do like a trigger shot in your abdomen to release them into your uterus. And then your doctor comes and gets them. And then they take the eggs to the lab, as well as your husband's contribution. And they bring them together, and they see which ones mature enough to where they're embryos. And then from there, they bring the baby back into your uterus, and then they see in 2 weeks, did the baby attach? So, and it truly was God making it happen on the first try, because that's not always the case. And we kind of went in there thinking it may not be the case for us either. But yeah, I would say definitely for that, tell people about it too. Tell them that you're going through this journey, because I didn't tell people with our previous fertility treatments that we were going through it. And I felt so alone through it. That I was like, this one, whether it works or not, I'm letting people know. And I'm so glad that I did, because, it's people checked in on me. They said, hey, I'm praying for you. And it truly was, it brought peace no matter what happened. So.
Great, great, great. So happy for you and Jeremy.
Thank you.
So Blair, tell my listeners how they can get in touch with you.
Well, you can access my book at basically any online bookstore that you want. So Books A Million, Barnes & Noble. I printed my book through Xulon Press. That's Xulon Press. That you can access and get my book that way, whether the physical copy or an ebook, it's all right there for you to get. If you want to contact me for editing services or writing services, or if you just want to say, I've got some questions on infertility or IVF or anything of that nature, I have a website, Parke Place Editing, Parke. It's all spelled that way, parkeplaceediting.com. And then I have my work email on there, parkeplaceediting@zohomail.com. And you can also read articles I've written on Salem Web Network with Bible study tools, crosswalk.com. So I'm available there to read, and my book's out there too. So definitely, I would love to hear from people and hear how the book has been impactful to them in this journey.
Great. And so if someone wants to have you come and speak, they can also go to your email. And I want to know, I got your book from Amazon.
Yes, you can get it at Amazon too. I forgot about Amazon. Yes.
Also on Amazon. So, wow. Blair, thank you so much. Thank you for informing us.
Oh, yes.
Encouraging us. And congratulations again to you and Jeremy. All right.
Thank you so much. And thank you. It was such an honor to be on your show. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you.